This is the Washington Times front page for Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. The front page is brought to you by American Hartford Gold. Their gold IRA strategy can shield your wealth from an economic meltdown and is both tax and penalty free. Call 866-525-4680 for more or text TWT to 65532. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his military has only started its massive counterattack against Hamas militants who rampaged through his country. In a nationally televised address, Ben Wolfgang and Mike Glenn report Netanyahu cast Israel's war against the Gaza-based Palestinian group as a war for his country's very survival, saying that Israel faces its greatest threat in decades. Israel is calling up 300,000 army reservists as it prepares for a ground war focused on the densely packed Gaza Strip. The country boasts one of the world's most effective fighting forces, but the nature of the coming fight could nullify many of its advantages. Netanyahu also likened the Iran-backed Hamas to the Islamic State jihadi movement and said its fighters committed terrorist acts such as tying up and executing innocent children. A top official of Hamas's military wing warned that the group was prepared to begin executing civilian hostages on camera if Israel bombed targets in Gaza without notice to civilians. The killing of unarmed Israeli families, with much of the carnage shown on social media, make it virtually impossible for the U.S. to provide further support for Palestinians. Dave Boyer and Mallory Wilson report the Biden administration approved $235 million in aid to Palestinians in April, including $150 million in humanitarian assistance for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency and $75 million in economic and development assistance. Advocates for Palestinians in Congress, including Democratic Representatives Rashida Tlaib of Michigan and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, will likely find themselves increasingly sidelined in light of the violence carried out by Hamas. Hamas's sneak attack into Israel across a heavily fortified border has also focused new attention on borders here at home. Stephen Dinan reports the attack on Israel has led Republicans to demand greater security measures at U.S. borders. Analysts say the fear is not so much a Hamas-style assault, but that the attack in Israel shatters the idea that a terrorist threat from the Middle East has passed. The front page is brought to you by American Hartford Gold. When you look at the news today, all you see is a financial landscape that's growing more and more dangerous, especially for your retirement funds. Stubborn inflation, soaring interest rates, and astronomical debt could drain their value. The good news is that there's a strategy that can protect your financial future. It's the Gold IRA from American Hartford Gold. This gold IRA strategy can shield your wealth from an economic meltdown and is both tax and penalty free. American Hartford Gold has earned a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Mention the Front Page Podcast and they'll give you up to $5,000 of free silver on your first order. Call 866-525-4680 or text TWT to 65532. That's 866-525-4680 or text TWT to 65532. House Oversight Committee members say an IRS whistleblower provided evidence that Hunter Biden paid women who belonged to a suspected prostitution ring. Susan Ferricchio reports he's also suspected of paying airfare to facilitate meetings with prostitutes. IRS officials investigating him on tax fraud allegations discovered that finding. House Republicans first sought information about the women in a letter to the Justice Department on July 25th. Committee aides said the department has not responded to a follow-up request sent on September 8th. And finally, an annual effort to bring together law enforcement and faith leaders to build relationships in communities proved successful this weekend. Mark Kellner reports at least 4,000 National Faith and Blue Weekend events were held over the weekend. The leader of the group behind the event says the intent is to connect faith leaders in communities with law enforcement organizations to provide them with the tools and resources they need to stay engaged in towns and neighborhoods throughout the year. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/frontpage or the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in your favorite podcast app. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.